Welcome, dear friends, to Cardiac Radio at 11 p.m., nourishing our souls with the spirit of truth. This time, Spiritist Practitioners Edition. Yeah, a subset of messages that were chosen to reinforce points for Spiritist practitioners around the world. The Spirit of Truth is the book published in 1961 in Brazil in Portuguese. Several spirit authors came together and delivered messages through Waldo Vieira and Chico Xavier. And today, 60 years later, here we are sharing our free translation with you. And here we have this message, the Christ Passion, by a spirit that we don't know much of, but it was from this group. You know, Kardec in the book, The Medium's Book, talks about this identity of spirits. Sometimes we're so stuck in the name of the spirits that we don't even think about the message. But he explains to us in the Medium's Book, Kardec explains that we shouldn't give much importance to the name, but to the contents of the message. And sometimes very superior spirits give them a pseudonym to make sure that we pay attention to the message more than to the name. No doubt, the message we're going to read to you belongs to this realm. It's about Christ's passion. What is it? It's his passion? No, you know what it is. It's the martyrdom. What does it have to do with us? Well, let's go to the item that is the main reference for this. The spirit, Mr. Frames, looked into the Gospel according to Spiritism, item 7 of chapter 19. Chapter 19 is about faith moves mountains. And item 7, Kardec writes about religious faith, unshakable faith. And he says, rational faith, that which is based on facts and logic, leaves no darkness in its wake. One believes because one is sure, and no one can be sure unless they have understood. That is why rational faith does not collapse, for unshakable faith is the kind that can stand face to face with it in all human epochs. Is your faith unshakable? What is unshakable faith? So let's think together. There is blind faith and unshakable faith. Blind faith, I believe in the dogmas just because. Somebody said it, I believe it. I watch a talk and said, Vanessa said so. No. I reasoned what Vanessa said and it makes sense. So I heard Vanessa saying, and I think it makes sense. I heard Kardec saying, and it makes sense. And forgive me for saying me, because it's important that we reason together. I know you do, but it's important to reinforce that in Spiritism, we value the logics, reasoning, the rational behind it all. And then we believe. We know. We have faith because we know. The Spiritist practitioner must have faith based on this unshakable faith. And Mr. Frames today says the following: Spiritism does not open the way for us to desert the world. So true. He's saying many people, as a psychologist, we recognize that we have this tendency to escape from reality because it's hard. Then we escape through addictions, we escape through moral vices in general, not only physical vices, moral vices, including laziness. I don't want to deal with that. So I procrastinate because I don't want to deal with it. And I lay down the couch and stay there. So he says to us, Spiritism opens a pathway, but not for us to simply go our way, running away from the world. It's the opposite. If it is fair to avoid the abuses of the century, cannot reach the exaggeration of wanting to live outside of it. Many people, when they become spiritual, they want to run away from the world because they think, "Ah, the world is bad. It's so mundane. The world is mundane. The world is beautiful." Yes, the world is beautiful. And the world, what a wonderful world it is, including with the pandemic, because we're discovering virtues we didn't have. We're cleansing the inner house of ourselves. We're strengthening relationships. It is clear day in, day out, the priorities of life. Spiritism clarifies so we can live in the world without being of the world. Let us enjoy, Mr. Frame saying, let us enjoy the life God has given us. Breathing the air of others, creatures, of others, our siblings. This statement is the main action for us. Let's enjoy life, breathing the air of the people that are around us. Because some people think I'm going to enjoy traveling to Hawaii, to Cancun, to the beach. Okay. If you come happy, how long is that going to last? Oh, but Vanessa, I need a break. That's not what we're saying. We all need a break. We're talking about enjoying life, really enjoying life in the spiritual sense of the word. We're not going to be able to enjoy life being self absorbed, self centered, egotistic. We need to breathe the airs of others. You see, all these messages repeat to us time and again. So when you enter the Spiritist Center to serve as a Spiritist practitioner, the first thing we leave outside is our concern, self interest. I don't go in thinking of myself. I think of others who don't know what I know and need our help. Need that we share with them, that we give them a hand. Whether we're doing this on Zoom, phone, text, email, or physically, presentially. Without charity, there's no salvation. Mr. Frames continues saying to follow our own conscience, we can dispense with untouchable virtue that forges illusory sanctity. The message is long, and I won't read it all, but we have selected a great deal. He says, let us not be either living shadows or transform our homes in tombs decorated with filigrees of worship. Our faith is not a field closed to spontaneity. Spontaneity incarnates and discarnates. We need to be prudent, but that does not mean that we must repress our healthy emotional expressions, like avoid hugging each other. If we're in a pandemic, we can't. But in our day to day life, we can express our affection. So he's talking throughout this message, all the sentences, he's talking about us when we appear something we're not. He's saying, let's be spontaneous. We have faith, we accept ourselves for whom we are, but we're not going to speak in a mellow voice to tell you that I'm so kind and I'm so loving. I can't be like this. It's not real. It's not real, Vanessa. I can be kind and firm, sincere and generous, with the appropriate tone of voice. I can't use masks. Pretending I'm so kind and so loving, so people are gonna be they're gonna love me because I always say yes. No, that is not authentic. That's what he's saying to us. He says, just as boastful virtue is defective as any other, affected austerity is an illusion like the others. Spiritist belief is not insensitive or impertinent. So we're talking about the extremes, being too rigid or too mellow. As Spiritist practitioners, we need to be coherent, normal, like Jesus, normal. And I say normal, quote unquote, saying, not pretending to be something else and aiming at our guide and model. We've never heard that Jesus was like, oh, you're so beautiful. We've never heard. Or saying, go away from here. You don't know what you're doing. Jesus was not in any extreme. He was always balanced. And that's what we aim at, though we're not there yet. So the first step is not to use masks, not to pretend, but moderate. Or as we say in science, we modulate our output until we get there. So he says, let us not also be policemen of the gospel, but let us be candidates to Christ's servants. See that he is saying, we're not here to judge people, to police people in the center. We're here to coordinate like a Christ servant. We're here to serve with order, but to serve. Neither vain charity, he's saying, that aggravates the harshness of others, nor the dryness of the heart that degenerates the joy of living. No extreme. The belief held in pride unleashes disasters as great as those created by materialism. So we need to be very careful about the belief that we hold, knowing that what we know is just so little, but we need to share. We can't keep it to ourselves alone. And he says, let us not be unknowing companies. A kind smile does not compromise anyone. And the Spiritist faith resides in just the middle ground of the good and virtue. Neither the perpetual silence of those who are half dead that destroys the natural way of being, or fearful speech that makes us feel ridiculous when he's saying, because we are shy. Neither low eyes of artificial sanctity, right? That posture when we pretend to be so sanctified, but we're not. Or the inexperienced longing to self-impose at all costs. When we come to the Spiritist Center, we say, I came from Brazil and my center used to do this, that, and the other. So I've done so many courses. I would like to know how I can start the mediumship course or how I can start working with the children. When we're really experienced in the Spiritist studies and works, we don't come that way because that's self-imposing. We can share. If I go to a new center, I can naturally wait for the moment when I'm going to encounter the directors and share, saying, hi, I came from X Center. I'm here now, living in the city. It's great to be here. I'm enjoying the meetings, and I would love to know more of you and maybe in the long run, help somewhat. And wait. Participate in the meetings humbly, without the anxiety of, I have to do something. Humility, simplicity, we go there and wait and wait. Look at Jesus. He waited 30 years to be in public. Was he doing nothing? No, he was doing many things. But he waited. Imagine if you were 15 and coming to the eyes of the public with all that much. It would not be helpful. So there is a right time for everything. Don't think that the directors of the centers don't know you. They don't know, because the good spirits will bring us up. Don't worry. No anxiety and no imposition, one step at a time. The Spiritist faith is spiritual liberation. It does not teach the calculated reserve that annuls communication, embarrassing others, nor recommends the rigidity of habits that sterilizes the simple life. Neither systematic sadness nor childish enthusiasm. Let's observe this last sentence. We're not going to be the person who is always at the corner, complaining and sad and downcast and useless. Or the other person who's like, oh, we love it. Oh, it's so good. Childish enthusiasm. So we needed to be adults. Imagine Jesus, our guided model. Would he do that? Neither of those. So we need to modulate. We can do this amongst our friends, but when we are spiritist workers, we need to tone it down, adjust, work around it. Let us abstain from the false religious idea susceptible of repeating the deviations from previous existence, in which we lived in despondent mysticism. Nowadays, we see many people who come to Spiritism. They love it, but they say, Vanessa, I want something more universal that everybody's going to understand. Well, then you didn't read the books. Because if you go just to the Gospel according to Spiritism, and in the Spirit's book, and in the Medium's book, all the books he repeats about the universality of the Spiritist teachings. It has been on earth before Spiritism revealed it, but Spiritism brings it all together. So when we still have this need to do the melting pot of spirituality, it's because we haven't understood Spiritism yet, because Spiritism explains it all and brings everything in a beautiful framework. We understand the religions and philosophies of life, and now it's all here, one. It's all explained. If we haven't found it yet, it's because we haven't read enough. We haven't studied enough. And these are things of previous lives, conditionings that Mr. Frames is saying we bring from previous lives, when we still need the candles, the stones, the reading of the palm, talking to psychics, and the mystic things. Vanessa, but is that wrong? No, if you feel like you need to do it, do it. But we're not going to bring it to the Spiritist Center. We don't need it. If you want to cultivate it, you can. But in the center, we don't need that. These 10,000 things. Only Spiritism explains why. And it's another story for another day. Mr. Frames finalizes by saying, let us undo the taboos of living superiority in the certainty that there is also pride in looking humble. It's amazing the way he writes. He's so precise. He's saying, we can't feel like we're superior than others or looking like humble. I'm so humble. So then you don't use perfume, you don't use makeup. I'm so humble. Humility has nothing to do with no use of makeup. Or, I don't buy clothes based on brands. Well, pride and brands, maybe people can use Michael Kors and be more humble than people who have not even a anything, and they are more proud of themselves than we imagine. Spiritism offers us true trust, reasoned, renovating trust. This is why the Spiritist is not condemned to inexpressive or vegetative activity. Charity is dynamism of love. The gospel is joy. It's not a system of restricting ideas of, or hindering manifestations. It's vaccination against absorbing conventionalism. So for those who think Spiritism is not very universal, I'll embrace, just read this. It's a summary of it all. But the true Spiritist is active, joyful, hopeful, faithful, and open. Is not in a box. Yeah, out of the box. The final statement by Mr. Frames: let us seek the people, the true passion of Jesus, living with them, feeling their pain, serving them without hidden agenda, according to the love one another, which is the greatest path for our spiritual emancipation. Mr. Everton Frames. In this last statement, we have everything. He's saying, let us seek the people, meaning like Jesus. In the way he did, he gave of himself. The passion of the Christ is all about sacrifice. But Vanessa, I don't want to sacrifice, but sacrifice is about breaking your own record. Breaking our own record. So now we're going to finalize by going to our shared screen, where we are going to draw. We're going to draw. We're going to draw simply this: Spiritism. It brings us rational faith. And that faith leads us to charity. And charity is all about sacrificing. It's like the passion of the Christ. What is it? It's about feeling the pain of people, which means it's all about being with others, feeling their pain, bringing consolation and relief. When we want to be the worker, Spiritist worker, that's the pathway. To reason our faith, to move the muscles of our soul through charity, the one in which we find people, feel their pain, give of ourselves, and then we bring, right? We bring new love into our lives. What is the exercise, Vanessa, in the next 24 hours? Spiritism offers us true trust. So what are we going to do? The gospel is joy. Charity is dynamism and love. So, time and again, we're going to find the people. Let's seek the people and live with them, feel their pain, serve them without hidden agenda. That's what we're going to do. However you want it. Let's seek the people, living with them, feeling their pain, and serving them without hidden agenda. That's the proposal. Want to do it? Yes? Let's form this task force of love and share the good and embrace the good wherever we are. And we'll see you tomorrow in one more episode of the Spirit of Truth, Spiritist Practitioners Edition. Thank you, friends, for being here with us. See you tomorrow.